Okay, welcome everybody to tonight's presentation on electric vehicles presented by the MAREA Group. MAREA is the Mid-Atlantic Renewable Energy Association. We're a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization. Our mission is education on renewable energy and sustainable living. We're always looking for volunteers and prospective board members. If you're interested in helping us with our mission, contact us through the marea.org or get in touch with one of the board members. Coming up next month, we go to Atlantic County, New Jersey, where the Atlantic County wastewater treatment facility operates with somebody needs to mute.
It's been completely destroyed.
Hello. Somebody,
you guys are here.
Okay, I'll just keep going here. So Atlantic County, New Jersey, they operate their wastewater treatment plant with solar and wind power. They do a couple of other interesting things. So I think it'll be a very interesting topic. That facility runs through 29 million gallons of wastewater every day. And so looks like a pretty impressive operation and should be interesting. So Phil, you want to introduce tonight's speakers?
Sure. Welcome, everybody. We're excited to bring you a whole host of speakers to share their experiences with electric vehicles and how they use them, how they charge them, what the good experiences are, what are the bad experiences. Some folks have been driving their electric cars for quite some time. And we'll be starting with John McVicker, who's probably been driving an electric vehicle the longest I know of anybody on the panel tonight, but I might be mistaken. Yeah. Okay, so we'll start with John McVicker, and then we'll proceed down with quite a few additionals. Rick Grabowski will talk about his BMW, followed by Mark King and his Volt and Leaf. Then we'll move on to John Colatch and his Hyundai, never pronounced that right, Tonic 5. And then we'll move on with, let's see, we had Rick, and then Tom Kerchner is going to tell us about the Inflation Reduction impact of on the purchasing of electric vehicles. And we'll move there onto Rick Denzien and Brandon Hollinger, and then we'll wrap up with a video from Ryan Fisher. So without further ado, John McVicker.
Okay, I'll have a short presentation here. I've done some longer ones for MAREA in the past, and hopefully this one will be nice and quick, and we'll get to the next speaker. I'm John. I've been looking at and studying the EV introduction back since 2008, just trying to get a handle on the whole EV landscape through the years. And I've done a couple presentations with MAREA talking about, like, back in the 2014 timeframe, just talking about EVs and the growth that was happening. I picked up a Volt in 2012. It's the first model year, so it gives me a viewpoint of how they do over time. I've had it for over 10 years now. It's 11 years old. It was built in 2011, but I bought it in 2012. Along with the Volt, I picked up a solar photovoltaic system in the backyard, and I've been using solar since the same year. It's 2012. So I've used some of that to fuel the Volt and to give me enough renewable energy at home to pretty much zero out most of my months of the year's electric usage. So far, I haven't found a reason to change to BEV. BEV is a battery electric vehicle. My car is a plug-in hybrid, but it's electric car until the battery runs down. So basically, I still drive it electrically every single day. The benefits I find with the extended range EV over BEV is simply, I'm home charging and I can drive electric every day. And if I need to take a trip, I don't have to worry about it planning my route. Back, especially in 2011 and 2012, I did have to think about if I was to drive an electric vehicle, where are the charging stations? And today that's not the case. But since back, in the beginning, it was much harder to find a public charging station, and most of them were level 2. So you wouldn't really do much road tripping on a level 2 network. Okay, next slide is, oops, I'm gonna go back. So my 2011 Volt, I charge in the garage and I set it to charge at night. Even though I have solar in the daytime in the back, I charge at night because I want to use that the grid power at the least demand. So between 3 and 7 a.m., I can charge the Volt fully, and using the level 2 charger at home, I won't drive more than maybe 30 miles a day, so I never really use gas. I've had the one EV in the family for the 10 years. We do have 2 cars, but my wife doesn't have an EV yet, and we're hoping to change that. How long does it take for me to charge? Some people ask, and I tell them 3 to 5 seconds. I just basically park the car and plug it in, and I go in the house, and that's how long it takes to charge. That's my opinion about it. It does take 4 hours to completely fill the battery, but I can still drive even if the battery is low. The system I have is a Schneider Electric 30 amp charger. It was installed in 2013, and it allows me to charge my current Volt or any future car with up to double the throughput of the power. So essentially, I can go up to 7 kilowatts for the power, and that's about 20 miles per charging hour. The stock 120 volt plug was only about 4 to 5 miles per hour. So the level 2 is a nice thing to have if you plan to drive twice in a day and you happen to use up your battery, which is like a Saturday, perhaps. Go out in the morning, come back home, charge it up, go out for dinner, things like that. The Volt I have now only charges at 3.3 kilowatts, which is about 10 miles per charging hour. So, the unit on the wall is essentially, kind of future-proofing me, at least for the time being. Here's what it looks like. It's a small unit. Some systems are bigger. This is only about a foot wide and almost 2 feet tall. It costs about $900 to install, so it's not just a simple decision. You have to think about the cost of installing a home charger. And I call it a charger. It's really not a charger. It's just a power provider. The charger's on the car itself. I had an option when I installed this to either get the one myself or get a free charger from Blink. There was a program on from the government at the time, and I was quoted $1,100 to install that free charger. That was just for labor and electrician time to install that thing, which is more than I paid for all the parts and putting it in myself. So yeah, it future-proofs me for my next car. Here's what it looks like. Just pull in the garage and plug it in. Real easy to do. In the morning, just unplug it and I'm off. It's no big deal. So basically, think about your charging spot before you install anything. Where's the plug on the car? On the left side, the right side, the rear, the front, and make sure you have enough cable to reach to all the points in the car. So this charger has a 16-foot cable. It's been great. I can charge outside the garage or inside the garage. Either way. So far, the car's gotten 110,000 miles in the 10 years I've had it. I'm only doing about 5,000 miles a year now, working from home and just not commuting anywhere. It's a whole lot less driving than I used to do. A little bit about my solar system. It's an 8 kilowatt system installed off the rear of my backyard. I guess you'd call it a shed, a little bit bigger than a regular shed, but it's a shed that holds a little bit of storage for the family, my mowers and things like that. And so I decided to, why not get some solar, but we don't have to put it on the house. Let's put it in the back on the shed. It's a fully pointing south system. It has no shade, so it produces up to like 52 kilowatt hours per day and about 11 megawatt hours per year. And it's been great to, the numbers I have so far, solar production has equaled roughly 330,000 electric car miles. So that's what the 109 total megawatt hours have given me. I've not driven that far, so I've produced a surplus for use in the house and for use in the neighborhood, anyone who is in my section of the grid. The last thing about the solar is it's a dual inverter system, and it has 2 MPPT controllers in each one. So I basically have 4 arrays. And if something goes wrong with one of them, I still have 3 arrays. What I have had problems with over the years has been both inverters have failed. So in the first 10 years of life for the system, one failed, and about a year later, another one failed. They were replaced under warranty, so it's been a good experience there. But I'm giving them about another 9 years before I may have to do something else. It was about a 100-foot line run from the shed to the house, so there is a little bit of loss in that connecting line, but not too bad. So some notes I have from owning the car for the 10 years. Even though it's grown, the public charger network still needs to grow. And I think we're going to speak on that a little bit later in this discussion. Some public DC fast charge, DCFC is fast charging units have failed during their first, second year of production. The Electrify America ones have come into some news about some failing units. So I think that's something to think about for, as they build out these systems, make sure they last quite a while, and also have a good service network of replacement or repair as they deploy them. Some public charging prices can be high depending on the location, which state you're in. They may have peak pricing, and some may have just flat rates. So make sure you know your pricing network as you go out into the public charging systems. I've understood the value of my plug-in hybrid because I'm basically driving electrically every day, but on that 2 or 3 trips a year that I may take, I'm able to use gas, and it's 40 miles per gallon, so it's still a nice fuel sipper. It's equivalent to something like a Chevy Cruze or I guess Prius have a better gas mileage, but not much more than what I've got. We also saw the battery prices are sort of rising right now. There's a little bit of demand and a little bit of supply chain issues. So, we're looking at EVs having a little bit of a price pressure going into 2022 and 23. We also have dealer markup. So some dealers have added price to the sticker price. So in the past, you'd haggle for a price, and now you're facing dealers who are saying, well, we're just going to charge you more because we can. So you do have to watch out for some dealers who do charge over sticker price. The 2 types of charging that are typical for my experience have been level 2. If you go to a mall or shopping for an hour plus, you charge there and you can get a pretty good amount of charge back. But level 1 would be another option. And if you're at an airport for multiple days, it's a great place for level 1 because you can slowly charge over the course of the time you're there. Last slide is, EVs should and do last longer than internal combustion engine cars, so that's good for sustainability. I expect my Volt to last me more, 5 more years, maybe 10 more years. I don't know. I'm waiting to see. The price of fuel may go up, and the grid price may go up as well. But we saw gas prices go up much faster here than the grid does. So it's been good owning the Volt for that. Price of solar has come down, and so with solar you can offset your costs. And given the price per watt of an installed solar system can be $2 to $3 a watt, you can offset your home price of electricity and your car. So and buying a used EV, that's a good economic value if you can find a used one for sale, either individual selling his car or at a dealer. You may be able to get a great deal versus a new one with some of the dealership pricing pressures. And questions come up, battery replacement. How long will it last? I don't know. I've gone 10 years and I've not lost any range. I haven't lost a cell either, and if I did, I would have some trouble because one cell loss in a Volt can lead to about 1/3 of the range loss, which means you have to go in and get it serviced. Either under warranty or after warranty, depending on where you are with the ownership length. Do the research. Meetings like this are great for research and learning about all the different options. And so, I just mentioned the battery issue is a battery doesn't typically fail, but a cell may fail, and so that's a single point of failure. And so I'm just looking forward to not having that happen to me. And that's really it. So that's it for my slides. Thanks.
Thanks, John. Do we have a couple of questions that anybody like to ask John before we move to the next person? You can just unmute your microphone and.
I have a quick question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
John, I was wondering if you could go back to that slide for a moment that showed what your power generation was on your solar system.
Okay, I'll do that real quick here. Let's do that.
And are you happy with the performance of your solar system?
Oh yeah. I gotta get back here. Let me find the right. I'm gonna have to fix this.
I guess what I should ask is your performance of your solar system consistent with what your as it was sold to you?
It's doing better than it was sold. I chose a system that was like call it tier 1. So these are Solar World panels made in the US, made in Oregon. They have had no problems at all, no failures of any modules. I did like the inverters also. You know, they're really well. They're 3.6 kilowatts, but they peak at 4. And so I get 8 kilowatts out of my system at peak time during the day. So I have very little clipping, and it's producing great. You know, I wasn't really guaranteed any kind of production. I just, you know, we did the math and we figured out it's a south-facing, you know, view. It's fine, you know. So, you know, I think it's doing great. So.
That's the one I wanted to just. So you're getting best days of output 52 kWh, and your annual output is 11 megawatt hours.
Sure.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
So basically, it costs you, charging at home costs you basically nothing to drive your car around.
I mean, that's the math. Yeah, it's nothing to drive the car because I'm producing more power than my car uses. That would be the way to describe it.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to John Grabowski.
Hi, I live in Levittown, PA, and I got this 2018 BMW i3 in 2020 during the pandemic. I was fortunate; it was the lease return through the dealer. It cost me about half of what it would new. It's just been a blast to drive, is the only way I can describe it. I'm a newbie at this. Okay, I'll be the first to admit it. I haven't done the math, but I'm not a newbie at solar, as John is. I have a 24 roof, and it's performing well since 2011. We've had the microinverters upgrade. Some of the microinverters have failed during the time, but fortunately we're covered under warranty. So that's kind of my brief and, you know, to the point thing about solar. And of course that eventually prompted me into looking at electric cars. I didn't really like what I saw, and I didn't like the prices, but I was fortunate to land this one. And I get about 120, round figures, about 120 miles of range on a charge. As with John, the charge takes probably about 3 to 4 hours on from empty. I can charge it up usually from about 40, range of 40 to 120 in about 2 hours. I don't commute anymore. I'm retired.
Is that 120 volts?
No, that's
is that 120 volts or?
We had a unit installed in the garage like John's.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
I couldn't give you the specs. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really not a technical person, but the car is relatively spacious. I'm sitting in it now. It has, you know, nice T roof and has a back seat. I hate when I do this, but my hands are not that steady. It's got, when the back seats go down, it's got good load space in the back. I got 40 pieces of firewood in there last year. The controls still mystify me to some degree. I think I have the basic ones figured out. I like several aspects of electric vehicles. And again, this is from a novice standpoint. I like the fact that if I drive in and around town, which is most of my driving, that I can pretty much drive with just the accelerator if I'm careful. And I don't have to touch the brake except in emergencies. My wife is adept at it. She almost never touches the brake. She has a hybrid, so this isn't her only car. She has a Honda, Insight, a Honda Insight hybrid, and she gets really, really good gas mileage on that. I can't coach any numbers. I'm sorry. I just don't know how long this battery is going to last. I've heard people say 8 years, 10 years. I have no idea what the replacement is. I'm not worried about it right now. I'm just enjoying driving it. I'm enjoying the fact that it charges up. I'm enjoying the fact that between my solar and this, like as with John, you know, I'm basically using the renewable energy, and I'm very happy with it. And I don't know what else to tell you. Oh, I know a couple other things real quick. I like the fact that with an electric vehicle, if you're on a hill, you can just take your foot off the accelerator and you stay. You know, like that was new to me. The power, that's the thing that just blows my mind. And I think that's what sold me on the car, other than I saw one in a parking garage about a year before I found this one. And it just, I liked the look, and talked to the owner and everything, and she was happy with it. But the power is the thing that sold me, because the guy said, just take it out on the road and open it up. And wow, before I knew it, I was doing 90. And I just never thought an electric car could go that fast. So I don't know what else to tell you.
Well, thanks.
Just the fact that I love it.
Yeah, that's great, Rick.
That's it.
Does anybody have any quick questions for Rick? You can just unmute and shout.
Last thing. I'm sorry. It does have a range extender, which gives me another 70 to 85 miles, I'm told. I've never put it to the test other than to go on gas for a little while. It takes very little gas. It takes about 2 gallons. And that's a nice feature. It's kind of a comfort level that, if I run out of power somewhere, and I've only taken it on 3 long trips, but I've planned the charging stations along the way. And yes, I have gone on some gas on those long trips. That's it.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Rick. All right, great. Mark, are you set?
Yes, I can get going here. So I think you're seeing my screen now.
Yep.
Okay, great. So our family's pleased. We're able to use the free energy from the sun to produce electric for our house and yard tools and fuel for our cars. And that's also led us to be able to care for our property in a more environmentally friendly ways. And overall, we like to be good stewards of our resources, what God has given us. Our journey started back in June of 2015. We had money from my father's estate, so we decided to put a new roof on our house. And actually, while the roofers were up there putting the shingles down, Solar City called and said, would you like to install free solar panels? And that I'd grown up thinking it would be neat to have solar panels. I wasn't thinking about it at that time, but it got us, we started thinking about it at that point. So we looked into it, and I started to think about other things we could do with that free electricity. And at the time, I didn't know anything about electric vehicles. I also learned about geothermal heating and air source heat pumps. As our solar installer said, I was kind of drinking from the fire hose that summer, trying to learn as much as I could. And we came up with the idea that if we do the solar panels, eventually we had 2 older cars, 15 to 20 years old. When we needed to replace them, we would replace them with electric vehicles. And at some point, we'd replace the oil furnace with a central air conditioner and heat pump. Replace the oil furnace and central air conditioner with a heat pump. So we decided to make the jump. In December 2015, we installed a 10.15 kilowatt array. We had 35 panels on our large southern-facing exposure roof. And we built the system with more capacity than we were currently using for electricity. So when we did have this electric vehicles, we'd have enough capacity for that. So as we were thinking about this, we realized that at least Nissan Leaf would be a good choice for us. They were pretty common at the time. The limited 84-mile range wasn't going to be a problem because my wife typically just drove 30 to 40 miles at the most. So we went ahead and bought that in October 2017. And we thought, well, we're all set for a while here. We've got this car. We're using the energy from our solar panels. We have our gas station wagons. But then 8 months later, the gas station wagon died. So then we had a little bit more challenging the decision. Are we going to make the big jump into a Tesla? Spend a lot of money for that. And we didn't really want to do that expense so soon after getting the Leaf. So we looked into Chevy Volt. The 40-mile range for that vehicle was enough to do my daily commute I had at the time. So we went ahead and purchased that. I used 2000 volt. And that had the advantage of being able to be electric for most of our driving, but if we had longer trips, we could use the gas engine. Then when we got the car, we recognized that charging up just the Leaf on the wall outlet wasn't too much of a problem, but now with 2 cars, it was hard to get them both charged at this, sometimes fully. And also you can see there's a bit of a safety hazard here with the charging cord going along the steps up to the front door. So looking at the, as John had mentioned, the standard outlet adds 5 miles of an hour range. With the level 2 outlet, you can add 25 plus miles. So we improved the safety. We put the charging station on the other side of the driveway. We put it halfway up the driveway. So whether we had the car parked in the outside or inside, whether it's headed in or headed out, the 25-foot cord would extend out to charge the car. And it was also safer now. And we put a solar light on the top to give some light in the evening time. So additional EV benefits we found. We're just visiting a gas station last year, and probably this year will just be 4 times. That's been really nice with gas being so high priced. There's much fewer car repairs. You've got many fewer moving parts. And we rarely have to go to pump gas in the winter. My wife likes the fact that she doesn't have to go to the gas station and get the smell of gas on her hands. So a lot of nice little benefits from this car. Now, when you have longer trips, there is an issue if you don't have a Volt where you can drive gas, or like Rick said, he can have gas on his car, his BMW. What do? You can rent a car. And in the summer, we were moving our daughter out to Missouri. Our Volt wasn't going to be large enough, so we rented a Chevy Equinox. And we decided to just go with the gas because you could charge it at different places, but we didn't want to try to deal with planning a trip and having the charging done at certain times. So it worked out well for us on this trip. Another advantage we found out was, since I started working from home with COVID, when the power went out one afternoon, I couldn't work. And then I remembered that I had a little inverter I bought, 100-watt inverter several years ago. So I went out and plugged that into the car and to the Volt, and I was able to run the electric extension cord into the window, hooked up the inverter, the router and the ONT, and then I got our wireless going. Another advantage with charging off the EVs is that it's not as loud as it is with a generator. And then the following Christmas, we ended up having a power outage, and we found out, hey, we could just run that extension cord upstairs and get some light to the first floor. So that was nice and made a much more pleasant experience getting through the power outage. So now I'll talk about what I call the cost avoidance. So as I mentioned before, where the electric was free, we looked at what we were spending before, about $1,080 a year. And then for the Leaf and the Volt, I looked at the mileage each year, and then I computed how much it would have cost to fuel them with gas. And I came up with these offsets here. And for the Volt, I just used electric miles for that. And then SRECs are another benefit, that's state renewable energy credits. And currently they're about $40 for every megawatt of electricity that our solar panels produce. We get money for that. So as you can see, we're about 9 years. In about 9 years, we'll pay off the solar panel investment of about $23,000. And if we do replace our oil furnace with a heat pump, we'll be able to add that into the cost avoidance. As I mentioned before, we've been able to environmentally care for our property. We have no fossil fuels used for our yard tools. They're all cordless or electric, or manuals in case of the push wheel lawnmower. And we've also been able to repurpose all our food and yard waste on the property. We do mulching and composting. We chip up sticks with our chipper. So that's been helpful also. If you'd like to see what we're doing here on our property, similarly to what MAREA used to have with their solar tours, there's a tour in October, October 1st and 2nd. Our home in Malvern, our property will be available to come. You can see the solar panels and all the different things we're doing to help the environment. So lastly, I'll share the benefits from what we see from our improved stewardship efforts. We've been able to take personal responsibility for meeting our household and transportation energy needs. We've been able to reduce our fossil fuel use and waste disposal, so we lessened our negative impact on the environment. We've gotten to the point where we're always putting our trash can out the curb twice a year by compacting and recycling and repurposing things. And then there's also been a long-term reduction in household expenses as we no longer have an electric bill. We rarely are going out to put in gas for our cars. That's what I have to share. Any questions? Okay, guess we can move on, Rick.
Very nice presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much, Mark.
Sure.
And Tom is going to bring us some information on what the tax incentives look like as in the recent Inflation Reduction Act.
Okay, I got the exciting stuff, guys. Okay, I'll go through this quick, and then if you want to know more, I can send you to resources or take your questions at the end. So the Inflation Reduction Act, somewhat poorly named, but a good bill. It does a lot for electric vehicles and renewable energy, and we're going to talk about a piece of that here. So what it provides is tax credits for new vehicles up to $7,500, and on used vehicles up to $4,000. But there are some limits. So on new vehicles, the vehicle cannot have a price of higher than $55,000. And for trucks, vans, SUVs, it's $80,000. So you got to watch if you have a car that's, or say an SUV, I've seen this, $79,000 MSRP, but then you add some options, you're over the limit. So then the other limitation from an individual standpoint is income. So this is just new vehicles, $300,000 household income if you're joint filers, down to $150,000 by individual. So the criteria for the vehicle itself is broken into three parts. First of all, it has to be manufactured in North America. But to qualify for the actual dollar credits, the critical mineral content has to, 40% of it in 2023 has to come from free trade countries. And then that goes up 10% a year to 80% in 2027. So what that means is there's a fair number of vehicles that qualify in 2023, but because that content number goes up 10% every year, more and more of those vehicles drop off unless the manufacturers start sourcing materials from other countries. And you can see China's totally not allowed as a source of these materials after 2023, and that's going to be an issue. And then the other half of the credit's tied to the other non-mineral content of the battery. 50% of that has to be from certain sources in 2023, and that goes up all the way to 100% in 2029. Now, there's a lot, Congress wrote the rules, and now it's up to the regulators to actually implement them. So between now and the end of the year, early next year, they'll be writing the details of this, and that may affect which vehicles actually make the list and which don't. Here's a list of what appears to qualify right now. It changes. This is from electrek.co. I would check back regularly because the lists change. And if you go online and Google which cars qualify, you'll see very highly varied lists from different sources. I think this is probably one of the better ones. But here's a good example. If you look at Rivian, I'm not sure which one it is, the R1T or the R1S, but it has a price of in the high $70,000 range. Start adding some options onto that, and it doesn't qualify. The other thing to note is you see Chevy or a GM and Tesla are on here. Prior to this bill, they did not qualify for credits because the manufacturers exceeded $200,000 of gross vehicle production. That limit went away, so now there's no limits on production anymore. And then here's a list of plug-in hybrid vehicles. There's no credit for straight up hybrids. There has to be an external energy source to qualify. So it also covers used EVs up to $4,000 or 30% of the price, up to $25,000. Has to come from a dealer. You can't do it buy it from your buddy, although maybe if your buddy's a dealer, you can figure something out, or if you know a dealer. You have to go through a dealer though. And then the income limits are about half of what they are for the new EVs. So you can see $150,000 for joint filers, $75,000 for an individual. And this vehicle you see on the right is an electric vehicle in Ukraine, and that would probably qualify because the vehicles can come from anywhere. Last thing, it's in the bill is there's tax credits for putting in charging stations. There's two sections. One is for businesses. This is important because we're all talking about range and finding charging stations. And through the end of 2021, businesses that put in charging stations got up to $30,000 tax credit. That went to zero this year. Now it's back in, and it's up to $100,000 or 30% of the cost. The caveat is it can only go into certain areas. So it can go into areas with the poverty rate is at least 20% of the population is in poverty, or the area, the median family income is averaging 80% of the state average. So they're trying to get charging stations available to greater segments of the population. And then there's no such limits on individual tax credits. If you put in a charger at your house, you'll get 30% tax credit up to $1,000. That's it. Final thoughts. There's a few vehicles, say it looks like maybe 20, 30 that'll qualify in 2023. But after that, it's going to be very few unless manufacturers start moving production and sourcing their battery components from places other than where they're getting them now. As I mentioned, there's detailed rules to be written, so we don't know everything yet. Tesla and GM are back qualifying for credits. My opinion, and just recent news is backing this up, I believe manufacturers will find a way to qualify more of their vehicles. And then you think about the incentives of this bill. With there's also incentives for solar installations. Put the two together, and there's more incentive ever to go electric. Open question: are these incentives enough for manufacturers to move production to North America, which is obviously one of the goals? And I would say yes. Just read an article today. Honda and LG are combining to spend $4.4 billion on a lithium-ion battery factory. I think Ohio or Georgia, I'm not sure which. However, it's going to be 2026 before they start producing those batteries. So we might go through a desert period where you're going to have fewer vehicles qualifying for these credits, and then it'll start ramping up. And Toyota also announced a similar type investment. So we're going to see more of that. We were seeing it before this program was kicked in. I think this will just be more incentive. So that's it. Any questions?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
For cars that were purchased new in say 2020 or 2021, after the expiration for the tax credits took place with Tesla because of the 200,000 car limit had been reached in the end of 2019, for people that have purchased Teslas or other vehicles that exceeded the 200,000 vehicle unit, and they purchased it before now. What's the situation with this current law in terms of going back a year or two and being able to apply for a tax credit based on the fact that people weren't able to get it
Right.
in 2020?
Well, I haven't seen anything to indicate that you could do that. I don't believe that's going to be possible.
Yeah, it's an interesting.
In fact, you can't right now. You can, if you buy a Tesla now, you will not get a tax credit. But starting January 1st, you could if the price is below those limits.
But if it's a used Tesla,
well, yeah, then you have to do it. Has to go through a dealer, but the buyer gets up to $4,000 credit.
So what's the date that these credits go into effect?
For the most part, January 1st. Although some are in effect now, but not for Tesla, not for GM.
They're not rebates, so you'll have to be filed during tax season after January.
Yeah, my other understanding is I believe that the dealers can get the credit and actually reduce the price of the car at the time you buy it. But like I said earlier, none of the rules have been written yet. You know, Congress kind of threw this thing together, and now the regulators got to figure out how to implement it. So there are some open questions.
Right. Then, of course, the state of New Jersey has a very generous tax credit, and that can be combined with the federal tax credit or not?
I believe so, yes.
Oh, yeah, I would think so.
Also, New Jersey doesn't have sales tax on EVs.
Mm.
At least that wasn't the case of what, saving the sales tax and getting a tax credit is a great thing.
Yeah. So buy your car in New Jersey, huh?
That doesn't really work, because when you register it in PA, you have to pay the sales tax. Then that's what happens.
That's true, right?
Yeah. So you have to move to New Jersey to get the tax credit.
Right.
All right. That's great.
Show up with that dealership with a New Jersey license.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's where you file your taxes. So
right.
That's
Bill, being a timekeeper, we need to move on.
Yeah. Just to emphasize, there will be time for questions and discussions at the very end. We just didn't want to get into too many questions for each particular talk, because then we could drag out. But and also feel free to ask your questions in the chat. So if it occurs to you and you want to ask a question, and you're afraid you might forget it, just put it in chat and we'll gather it up at the end. So next on board, we have Rick Denzien. Are you there?
Rick, I am here. Can you see me okay?
I can see you okay.
Perfect. So I like to thank John McVicker and Mark King and Brandon, who's coming on later. These guys have truly been an inspiration to me. We were doing like a little tour in our Nissan Leaf, and there was a festival that we were singing at just over the hill from his place, and he shares his electricity on the plugshare.com network, and so we're jonesing for a charge and wanted to kind of see what was around the area. Wound up at his place, and he gave us a really fine tour of his electric solar array and his plug and everything else that was going on, and he's been very supportive in our Drive Electric Earth Day events, and also the National Drive Electric event that we do. And that event's coming up, by the way, on the 24th of September. You can hit the landing page, drivethefutureev.com, and that'll take you to the main page, but it gives you the dates and everything. They have a thing going on right now. If you register, you get a chance to win a $250 Visa card, which is pretty awesome. So back then we had a 2013 Nissan Leaf, and we were doing, I would say, fairly long distance travel with the Leaf. We did several trips down to Washington, D.C. for musical purposes and protest purposes. And we did a long distance trip up to Cornell, which was pretty good. And yeah, John, somebody put drivethefutureev.com in there as a landing page. You could do that. Appreciate that. John has been doing our sound for us, and has been just instrumental in helping the show grow. Last year we had over 60 electric cars there. This year we've already got well over 30 registered. Looks like we're going to have a Formula E car at the show. We have 2 Rivian R1Ts that will be there, and you can take a ride in them, which is pretty awesome. Of course, along with all of the classics, there'll be some classic Nissan Leafs there, some of the newer Nissan Leafs, classic BMW, and also a brand new iX BMW will be there. All the Tesla cars will be there. There's a 2022 Model 3 that'll be there. And, you know, coming from a Nissan Leaf perspective as a musician, you're seeing in the background here, this is actually part of my recording studio. I'll take you on a brief tour in lieu of slide presentation, but all of this is possible only because we switched to driving all electric. So we met John right after we switched to driving all electric, and we didn't do it a little bit at a time. We didn't ease ourselves into it. We just got rid of our gas cars, had one of them crushed, and the other one went to a dealer, and we got our Nissan Leaf. They did, in fact, try to sell us an oil change package the day that we bought our Nissan Leaf. So we denied that. And we found that we started saving so much money on gas and on oil that we were enabled in a way that allowed us to keep our house. That's how desperate things got for us. It allowed us to keep our house. So we're musicians, we teach, but all of our parents who depend on those corporate jobs during 2008, 9 started catching up in the 13s and 14s, and a lot of those people had to move, or they couldn't afford lessons anymore, and it started to affect us adversely. I won't get into it, but Evil Corp, Wells Fargo, said, yeah, we'll just stop paying on your mortgage and then we can help you. I said, well, you know, I listened to my dad, and I don't recall him ever saying don't pay your mortgage, ever, right? So I sort of said, well, that's bad advice, but they got sued for that later. We were part of that multi-million-dollar lawsuit, got about $2.46 out of that whole thing. So, but we learned a valuable lesson, and that is that the only real way to financial independence is you've got to plug up all these holes that you have in your finances. And one of our biggest holes was spending money on fossil fuels. The next biggest hole that we had was spending money on our electricity. So, you know, we have a full-blown recording studio here, and we were paying $8,000 a year in electricity costs. So, of course, most of you are aghast at that. That's just so much. And, well, you know, I was the ISP in Ambler for many years, and I maintained, even during modern times, I maintained a dial-up service from right here. And all those servers take a lot of electricity, don't they? So we had quite an electric bill, but in 2016, I was able to save up enough money to begin a DIY solar project. And so we put that in place. I did all the work myself. Part of it was from a re-roofing project that I was already doing. I found a really nice product from EcoStar that was using recycled tires and plastic bottles for the roofing material. So this is a shot of today's production, and on our own roof here, and it's in real time. So the sun is set. We're pulling about 1,200 watts from the grid right now, and about 10%, 160 watts is coming from the battery for the total of 1,281. This is what our situation actually looks like. So the blue is the battery kicking in, and green is the solar. So during the day, it's back and forth, back and forth. So today we had an intermittently cloudy day, and these batteries kick in every single time a cloud goes over or production falls to maintain a steady output. The bright yellow right around 7:30 is when, this is 7:30 a.m. So we went through the entire night on battery power, but then around 7 o'clock, the battery just finally ran out. And so the grid automatically switches over until the sun shines again, and then the battery starts to charge when it can, and it just kind of goes all day like that until we reach the dark time, and we're in the dark time now, so we're a little bit on the grid, and the battery is starting to taper off. At some point, the battery will recharge off the grid. That's what we have it programmed to do right now. And but you can see every day that goes by, it's a completely different scenario. Look at that. Completely different every day. But right now, and you can see here's one that we went all night long, and then the morning came when we had solar, and then it looks like there was some intermittency during the day. It's quite interesting to watch this over time, but the bottom line is that we can run about half of the time right now without having to be on the grid at all. And I have more plans to build one more roof from scratch, and that roof will supply all the power that's necessary in order to run the entire place. That's the recording studio and everything. I'm going to move here just to show you around the studio. Hopefully we won't lose connectivity. So here's the a couple of well, more than our original Nissan Leaf, I'll put it that way. This one still has 15% left after a whole day, and this one is down fairly low. And you can see here the each individual battery is still 3,200 milliamps, so plenty of juice. My panel setup is right here. So all of this right here is every single circuit in the entire place. This switches over from grid. Everything is set on the in-wall electric oven. And I'm not kidding you. So we got our heat pump on here. We got the kitchen stovetop on here. We've got every single, like this is a sub panel, the instant on hot water heater, the inside front blower. And we have an outdoor, we have two charge stations right now. This is the one that's actually on the panel. The other charge station is connected directly to the solar inverter. So we're rocking, and this, when the studio comes on, this thing uses a lot of electricity, as you might imagine. So we wouldn't be able to do any of this kind of stuff if it weren't for the fact that we had so much of a savings with having an electric car, and then, you know, now with the solar. So I think we are now down to, from $8,000 a year, we're down to about maybe $2,000 a year, something like that, on our electric bill. Hey, Mark, check out that. What are the chances? Look at that. That's just like your house.
That's funny. Thanks.
I've got mine filled with cork. So I always end every presentation, and I hope you guys can make it out and register for the drivethefutureev.com National Drive Electric Week event on the 24th. But this is a song I always sing. It's from my Heal the Land CD. As children played in a field, they cried. A factory's waste burns their eyes. They manufacture synthetic lies, and newborn babies die. Heal the land and the sky and the sea. Heal the land for one, you and me. Build coal-fired power plants, frack the rivers with toxicants. Breathing in the irritants, we pay the price for extravagance. Heal the land and the sky and the sea. Heal the land for on you and me. Heal the land, oh, heal the land. Restore the beauty that was planned. Heal the land, oh, heal the land. We got the choosing in our hands. Heal the land. And men without hearts make earth sick with every new spray and oil slick. And economic on the sea determines right and wrong. My God, we're dying and we need a healing hand. But we trust technology, and pride is no apology. And we try to hide the sin, but what a mess we're in. My God, we're dying and we need a healing hand. So many corporate conference rooms decide how many will die this noon. Exploit whatever is opportune. No, they make their money, but better make it sweet. We're gonna heal the land and the sky and the sea. Heal the land for everyone, you and me. Heal the land, oh, heal the land. Restore the beauty that was planned. Heal the land, oh, heal the land. We got the choosing in our hands. Heal the land. Heal the land. Heal the land. There you go.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the
Nice.
time. Appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
Zero emission musicians are really, it's a really a possible thing. You can read about our record-breaking tour if you do a wide search. Musicians take a Tesla. That'll get you to our one of our tours that we did. I don't know how far the Tesla goes on a single charge. I think it's like 10,000 miles. I'm pretty sure because that's what we did on our last tour. It was in May. We went on vacation and we did 10,000 miles in 3 weeks with our
Wow.
Tesla. And so is it possible to go all electric? Yes. Will you save money? Absolutely. Someday I guess I'll draw up the numbers, you know, whatever, but it's a real thing. And when you add up all that money, and the fact now is we're talking about economic and energy security. That's really what I've been able to accomplish. And I stand on the shoulders of giants like John McVicker and Brendan Hollinger, because these guys are doing their own thing and have been doing it a very, very long time. I hope that I've been able to push the ball forward a little bit for people.
Great. Thank you so much, Rick. Anybody have any questions for Rick? A couple of quick questions.
We need to move on.
Okay. John,
Just one quick question, if you could put back up on the screen the websites that he mentioned earlier.
I think there's some that have been, John's been putting them on the chats.
Yeah, John's been doing that.
Yeah,
Thank
I think everything's on the chat. And you can save the chat from the at any time during the meeting, and you've got all those links. It'll put it in a little file for you. Okay, John Colatch, did we get a chance to hear? John, are you ready? Can you present?
Yeah, it's not going to be a slideshow, just experiences with, I'm new to the group, hello. I live in central Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I'm a retired university chaplain who has too much time on his hands. I'm on my fourth Toyota Prius, and people have said that's the gateway drug to an EV.
Yep.
So we had when my dad died, there was some money that came, and we bought our first and only luxury car. We had a BMW X3, and the warranty was up this month. And I said, I'm not owning it past the warranty time. I've heard too many stories. So back in March, I'd been looking at EVs for a long time and didn't know. I thought I was going to go the plug-in hybrid. I looked at the Bolts, and then they started catching fire, and so I kind of didn't look at them anymore. But the good news is it made me look at other things. And I don't remember how the Ionic 5 caught my attention, but it did. And long story short, knowing they weren't available anywhere, I looked at dealers within 150 miles of us because nobody's near us. And after about 3 weeks in Wilkes-Barre, PA, the guy called and said, we have one that's a base model. We know you don't want that, but the deal fell through. And I said, well, can I come tomorrow and at least sit in it to see if I even like the car? So my wife and I went up, sat in the car. He said, by the way, we got our list today of what's coming in, and sometime in August, we'll be getting the Limited, which is what you asked for. So we rode the car for about 10 seconds, said, yes, we want it. And we made the deal. And the car didn't come in August. It came 2 weeks later. So we've had it since May. It's a fluke. Nobody can get these things. We have one. If you don't know anything about the Ionic 5, ours is an all-wheel drive. It's 325 horsepower, and it's 800-volt charging architecture. So at the EAs, when they're working, we've gotten as much as 235 kilowatts. So basically, and it's true, we haven't done it. You can go from 10 to 80% in 18 minutes. We've never had to charge longer than 15 or 20 minutes. We just came back from Vermont, which is a charging desert in some ways, and in some ways there's lots of little level 2s. So we had to plan the trip up there. Good thing about Vermont is in the state capital, in the parking lot, there are 4 level 2 chargers. It says reserved for legislators, but they're only in session 4 months of the year. So I charged up and it was free. So that's what saved us. I could walk from my hotel and keep the car charged. My wife is disabled, which is why we needed another SUV type car and why we needed the top of the line, because everything in it is automatic. I was lucky I got it in May, so I will get the $7,500 credit because the new one is not retroactive. If you had your car before they signed the new one, you get the old benefit. So that's not why I bought it, but it's nice to know. And Pennsylvania gives it's either $750, I think it's $750 credit. It's kind of in keeping with what our house is 11 years old and our heat pump died last year. So we were able to buy a new, more efficient heat pump. And I had a level 2 charger put in the ground at Grizzly. The total cost with that and then having it installed was just under $1,000. Our electric bills, this house is 2,700 square feet, and our electric bills so far this summer, the highest they've been is $160. So the house is very well insulated. The car hasn't affected it that much. When we're on the road, because it's Hyundai's deal, we get 2 years of free charging. So there's a lot of benefits. I took the jump. I took the plunge, not knowing, with range anxiety being what it is. Around here, it's fine, but my family, none of my family lives near us. My son lives in Vermont. My daughter lives in England. We're not driving there. My mother lives in the Pittsburgh area, which is 3.5 hours. So there's been a death back there, and we're going over there this week. And the charging station I usually use is closed while they're rebuilding the Sheetz convenience store. So I've got to figure out where I charge. But people who complain about that, I said, when's the last time in your gasoline car you took the time to plan the efficiency of your trip? We just always are used to gas stations being there. So I said, I don't mind the inconvenience because it makes me really think about where I'm going and how I can get the best mileage. If you're curious, like I said, mine's all-wheel drive, 77 kilowatt battery. In the summer, using air conditioning, going 70, we've been getting about 220 per charge around town, more like 275. That's in warm weather, of course. I don't know if you saw, Consumers Report just did a test and they were very surprised to find out charging distances were actually better in the heat of summer using air conditioning than they were with spring temperatures. And that really surprised them. They said that shouldn't work that way, but it did. Our electric supplier, PP&L, does not offer time of use rates, but because I live in Pennsylvania, we can shop for our electric supplier. So that's why my rates are low. But the bad news is our contract's up in November and all the rates are about 40 to 60% higher. So, which is better than my daughter who lives in England, their rates are going up 80%. So there's a lot of crises at various places. I will tell, the charger I have in the garage is 40 amp. And usually what I'll do is just charge the car in the evening hours, since I don't get time of use rates. I just don't want to leave it plugged in overnight. I just would rather not. So I pull the car out or leave it in and charge it. It's not been a problem. I would say all things, it's the best car I've ever owned. And I'm not a salesman for Hyundai. It's the best car I've ever owned. I should be a salesman for Hyundai because we get stopped every 5 minutes. A lot of people with misinformation. I hear the batteries are going to cost $28,000 for that when they go bad. And I don't ask them where they got their information. I just say, well, they're warranted for 100,000 miles or 10 years. So I'm pretty confident. There was one gentleman who stopped us and I explained how it worked. He said, but where's the gas tank? It took me 20 minutes to convince him there was not a gas tank, because there is that fear of how do you do this? We've met some really nice people. I have seen very few of these on the road. We've seen them at charging stations, but in the wild, the entire time we were in New England, we didn't see one. I haven't seen one in Pittsburgh. So it does get attention. We have 7,000 miles on it. It's because of going to see our son and my mother, who's 91 over in Pittsburgh. But it's been flawless, and I will never go back to having it. My Prius, I feel guilty because my Prius, I'm not in love with it anymore. I'm trying to figure out how to break up with it, and I don't know how to do that. So I'm just we've kept it. It knows I'm looking around, and it senses that I'm not as in love. I'm doing an interim pastorate right now, so I'm going to work every day. I'm taking the Prius, and what it makes me realize is how roomy and how wonderful the Ionic 5. And I will tell you, the Ionic 5 saved our life on our trip. We were up in Troy, New York with the attendant traffic at rush hour, and all of a sudden our car, the brakes went on and it veered to the left because a big tractor trailer came and forced its way, and I didn't see him coming. He was coming from the ramp, and our car saw it and moved us out of the way. You got to love that. We've had no trouble. I know I'm jinxing it right now. I told you that, and tomorrow it won't start. Some people have had trouble with the car not starting or the 12-volt battery dying. We've had none of those problems. The car has been flawless. And somebody was talking about the power. I have a neighbor who collects old Corvairs. He reconditions them. He's a skeptic, but he asked if he could go for a ride. Took him out here on a low to level road, and I said, brace yourself. Put it in sport mode, and I floored it. It pinned us to the seat. We came back. He said, do it again. Did it again. The next day, he said, can you take my wife and my grandson? So he's still going to keep his Corvairs, but it wins people over. I know it's not the solution. I mean, there are battery issues with where they're made and how they're made. But considering where we are, I've wanted an electric car for a long time. It's not something that just kind of came over me. I'm a master gardener, so my yard is full of native plants. Our house is very efficient. I walk everywhere that I don't drive. This was just another extension. So, for those, and I don't know if it's anybody in this group, but those that are still dealing with range anxiety and those kind of things, it hasn't been a problem for us. The last thing I'll say is when we were coming home, we were in Newburgh, New York, and I charged it up. And I think I charged it only to 90%. I never charge it at 100. Usually I charge it to 80 when we're not on trips. But I think it was at 230, and it said it was 175 miles home. Well, where we live, there's no flat road. It's all up and down and round. So I said, I'm not planning on stopping in Scranton to charge. We're just going to go all the way home. We made it with 49 miles to spare. That's as close as I've ever gotten. When I pulled up to the EA Electrify America in State College, PA, a guy pulled in next to me with one. First one I ever saw besides mine. He had come from New Jersey. He was down to 1%. And he said, I could have stopped in Bloomsburg, but I wanted to see if I could do it. Besides, I have a friend who lives here. I will never do that. There's brilliance and then there's not. So, we didn't look at a Tesla. I can't get past Elon Musk. So I still love our Prius, but I'll be waiting to see with the new incentives, how they have to be American-made cars. I will tell you, Hyundai is moving up their plans to build their plant in America, which I think a lot of people are going to be doing. So yeah, I'm a very happy EVer for the first time, and I'll never go back.
Great. Thank you so much, John. Do we have any quick questions for John?
Question for John. I wonder if he had any issues with winter driving.
I've only had it since May.
With the Prius?
Oh no, the Prius, I've never had a problem with winter driving, and it's not even all-wheel drive. Now, having said that, we always had an all-wheel drive. The Beamer was an all-wheel drive. Before that, we had a Forester that was all-wheel drive. So we've always had a car if we needed it for the snow. But the Prius, none of my Priuses, I do notice the efficiency goes down in the winter. And with the Ionic 5, basically it said you can expect 20% decrease in winter temperatures. But if I know that going in, then I just plan. But no, our Prius, I've had 4 of them. I've never had trouble with one of them, ever. They last and they last.
Okay. I live by Erie, PA, so I am.
Well, my wife's from there and she hates winter.
Yeah, you too. But I have a Forester that I'm thinking of keeping because I have a Prius coming. So I'm just leery to only have a Prius to drive in the winter.
Oh, you should be fine.
Yeah. Is it an all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive?
It is all-wheel drive.
You'll be fine.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
Great. Thanks.
So we have one more, right?
Yeah, Brandon. Brandon, are you ready? You're on mute, Brandon. There we go.
How about now?
Perfect.
How about now? You can. Okay, sorry.
We have audio.
Like to try to fill the screen. Is it?
There we go.
You see the word trajectory?
Yep.
And nothing else?
Just you.
Rock and roll. All right. Trying to burn through some quick information here. I accidentally sent a text a little too quickly, but if you scroll up, there's a announcement about our EV show on Friday, first Friday, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. 3 p.m. we're showing a free showing of Who Killed the Electric Car at a very cool independent theater.
That's this weekend?
Downtown on Friday.
This coming Friday.
First Friday, September 2nd, this Friday.
Okay.
3 p.m. Who Killed the Electric Car in a theater, in a cozy, very cozy place. Then after that, take a little walk. At 6 p.m. we're having our 10th annual electric car show. I've been at this, converting cars to electric for 15 years, but for 10 years, would have been 11, but COVID, we've been gathering our conversions and OEM production electric cars, and the goal being to take polluters off the road. I don't care if you convert your car or buy a fully electric down the street, which you can now do. Back then you couldn't. And so the goal here is to clean up the air, whatever it takes. So, converting cars was the only way to do it when we started. There were no options. And now it's gone from necessity to more of a fun thing you can do. And so I have a few, let me just see here. I don't have a cursor. That's really weird. My background, I come from a pacifist church in Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania, between Lancaster and Harrisburg, right? So we had values of peace and service. I demonstrated against the Gulf War when I was 16. It was important for me to get off oil, get off petroleum as an adult. And I would bike, and then I started looking into other options to convert the car to kick that habit anyway. I looked at all the options I could find online, tried to be very fair and objective about it. And the clear winner was really electric electricity. I mean, you could use pumps and compressors and to fill your car with gases or liquids, fluids, but it didn't, the cost associated therewith and finding all those fuels made no sense at all. I mean, you just take the electricity used. This is Elon Musk like to say this: electricity needed to refine 1 gallon of gas on that electricity, and that's one piece of one phase of many phases to get gasoline. So that one little component of a component, we can drive about 30 miles on that as an electric car. Just the electricity it takes to refine 1 gallon of gas. Forget the gas itself. Electricity really turned out to be the best option by far. So I started looking into it, and I went online. I found a fellow named Gavin Shoebridge in New Zealand, the magic of YouTube, the magic of the internet. I watched all 20 of his videos in one sitting. I was so moved by what he did and so inspired. And then I saw the Who Killed the Electric Car, right? The movie, and that's the movie we're showing at 3 p.m. on Friday, for free downtown. See the link if you scroll up to Lancaster First Friday EV show, if you're in the area or are considering it. That was a very pivotal film for me and most of my friends. And so I eventually converted my own car to electricity. I looked and got connected with EV America, Electric Vehicles of America, New Hampshire, Bob Batson, who just closed his shop last week after, oh my gosh, probably 30 years. Very important guy. So this, what you're looking at right now, is my first conversion. I never did anything with cars. I changed my oil one time. Got involved with this 15 years ago. I still drive this car today. Fast forward just a few years later, started doing my own. I started doing them for other people. I was very motivated and very inspired, as many people do become when they convert a car to electric. It's better in every way. I came at this with no background in automotive or mechanical. So one thing led to another. I did the red car there, the Miata, for my folks. I started doing them for other people. I built another one for myself. To the British taxi in the first photo there at the bottom. I was intent on taking people around and doing weddings and things. But these are some of the cars. Yeah, there it is again on the top left that we're doing. Try to keep this moving here. Some of the sites along the way. It's very encouraging and inspiring to do your own car, and just to know that you can do this with minimal or no experience, you get with the right company. And we have picked up the torch long ago with what EV America was doing up in New Hampshire. We bought a kit from them. I bought a kit from them in the beginning. They gave me all the help in the world. I never got on their nerves, or they didn't let me know they did, and they answered all my questions. And I had a functional vehicle. I had a functional vehicle to go to work, and that Saab now has undergone an upgrade or two. It went from lead acid to lithium and quadrupled its range, or depending on how you do the math, and lost a ton of weight. It's much faster. And I'm still driving that car today. I'm at 95,000 miles. I would be higher. I'd be at 100 by now, on electric only. But I have a lot of other cars to test drive, and I don't go anywhere anymore. My life got very local. So that, I'll just try to keep moving here. I went brick and mortar, I've been doing this for 15 years. Last 4 years, I've been basically all in. I went brick and mortar. I put my music career kind of on hold and started doing this full time in Lancaster downtown. And one way to look at it, well, actually, we had time to, we put a lot of time into R&D and ended up starting to learn to use Tesla components. And much like an organ donor, when a vehicle meets an untimely death, there are a lot of great things in there, gold standard EV batteries and motors and parts. So we're trying to use the whole buffalo, you might say, more and more of the EV. And we can make any car basically run like a Tesla now. And that's kind of not hyperbole. We've done it already. Here's an amazing stat, and it seems silly, but it's true. More than triple the power at less than half of the weight. When you look at the apples to apples drivetrain comparison, internal combustion versus electric, unbelievable numbers. Here's a quick little glimpse of a bench test early on in the process. That's the rear of a Tesla Model F. Here's a fellow I connected with up in northern New Jersey. He brought me in to speak at and run a conversion club at Bergen Community College. He did the car in the background. I helped him do that, and then he progressed and wanted to do a Tesla conversion. So I did a ton of the work on that Audi. That is Rich Rebuilds on the bottom there, and Scared to Death. He hooked up with Rich and immediately went completely viral. Millions of hits that video got. So that led me to do one of my own. I did a Sprinter van, much very different than what he did. Well, his approach was very unique as well. Nobody really does it like he does it, like he did it, or like I'm doing it. But this is a fantastic way to use the Tesla Model S. Usually has two drive shafts or two axle shafts. Now I made it into a way to turn one drive shaft. There's your action photo there. We also had to change the gear ratio. Take a quick mental note. There's a large gear meshing against the small gear. Now the two gears on the left are very close to the same size. We had to change the ratio. Luckily, there was an aftermarket kit by that time. And we were able to change the gear ratio, and it made sense with the rear differential. There's another ratio at the back of the vehicle. So we needed to counter that with some different gears. We had to reverse engineer. This was a crazy effort, but we did it. We did it, and it's working out great. The Sprinter van has been our test mule. There it is in the background. We actually use the entire battery. We don't take it apart, and take advantage of an enormous amount of Tesla technology, including the BMS and the charging and the thermal management, et cetera, et cetera. Well, another way to do this is, if you see there's individual modules in there, they can be harvested, and most people take them out. Almost everyone takes them out, and they repackage them. We came up with our own system, a modular system to package those batteries. And for conversion, people are digging these batteries so much, these battery boxes so much. They can be built to any size. The ones you're looking at all happen to be 4, but they can be built to, I guess they can be put side by side. In the bottom right-hand corner, you can see that we have 2 singles connected side by side. And, but really any combination of height and width you can do with these boxes. This is the first application. We put two 4-module boxes in this truck. I bought a lead acid pickup truck. It was previously converted and ran on lead acid. Putting 2 of our boxes in it, we had half of a Tesla pack where we normally had lots of lead acid. So that truck lost 1,100 pounds in one day and tripled its range. And now it peels out like mad. If you're crazy and want to do that, I want to let this finish. It's great about these boxes. They are completely modular, any size. They happen to fit really nicely into the battery racks the fellow already made that I bought this from. There's a 4-module box again. You can attach anything you want to the outside because it's aluminum and it's great to thread into. It's very versatile and very DIY. So you can realize your own dreams with these boxes really easy. Make them your own. There's the battery management system showing on the right side, and the charger kind of attached on the left side. And that was near the end. Fit like a glove, and that truck lost 1,100 pounds. Oh, sorry. Pardon. Sorry, I had to open the door for a friend. I can't see anybody, but I really burned through that. I know we're up against the time limit. Does anybody have any questions? Uh-oh.
You're
still there, right?
Yeah, we're all still here.
Okay.
Hey, Brandon,
given to nobody would be awful.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate side of Zoom.
Yeah.
Given your engineering knowledge, where do you see the technology going next?
I don't see this ever quitting anytime soon. I think we're gonna dig in and we're gonna continue to learn how to use these great parts. And what you end up doing, right, instead of buying stuff off the shelf to do conversions, which is really the way we've been doing it up till recently, take a pre-existing old vehicle, take a pre-existing wrecked Tesla or wrecked whatever, get the R&D happening, and now you're using used parts into a used car. Now run your operation off solar, and you've got a real near zero carbon footprint and result. And there's so many reasons for converting. You convert because you want something that's not available. You convert to have a great experience. You convert to perhaps do a father-son, mother-daughter project. You convert because you want to drive a classic that that has insane performance and you can get parts for, and is clean, and you can charge at home. I mean, there's a number of reasons to still do this, even though there are a number, as I'm happy to announce, there are a number of options that you can go down the street and just purchase. Which I do want to drive the point home that we have a pretty awesome show this week. Friday, 3 p.m. there's a free showing of Who Killed the Electric Car. 6 p.m. we will have the car from that movie, and that is an insane statement. But they were not all crushed. If you don't know the story, please come and watch it or look it up. Those cars were crushed in around 2003-ish, crushed and or shredded. We have one of them that has not been crushed, coming a little bit of a distance to share that car with the public. And we have 30 electric cars in one place, 6 to 9 that same day. 30 electric cars, the Ionic 5, like you saw earlier. We got a Rivian. We got a Lucid Air, which is, you haven't heard about too much. They are a real Tesla competitor. Amazing vehicle. We've got every Tesla. We've got a Tesla Plaid, and our conversions will have at least 5 conversions there. One of them is an e-dragster, record-holding e-dragster, 1968 El Camino. That is a real beauty. And it's also just road legal, so he actually just drives it as a daily, he calls it a daily dragster instead of a daily driver. Burning through this, but I sent Phil a poster. I don't know how to get it to anybody. It doesn't work on the chat.
Yeah, we'll put some of these things on the website and try to get that for you. It sometimes it takes a little while for what we load on the site tonight to get out to you, but check that later tonight or tomorrow. Thanks very much, Brandon. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
We have one video from Ryan Fisher, who was not able to attend tonight. So we're a little short on time, so at least we'll see the beginning of it.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry I can't make tonight's meeting. School stuff, you know how that is. Kids going back to school this week. So I just wanted to run you through my home charging setup and also some of the things that I do in order to make life easier with an EV. So let me take you through that. First off, I have my outdoor outlet. I have the mobile charger, which is just a 120. I have a shower cap that actually covers the charging unit to keep dust and debris off of it, and also the elements. And then I ran it through my porch siding. You can see I took a little hole out of the siding, and I have a swim noodle insulating it just a little bit so bugs don't get in. And this runs out to where I will show you next. This is where it comes out through the porch, and the line runs down here. I have more swim noodles, black ones, so it doesn't stand out as much, but then the orange ones so the kids don't trip over it when they're taking their bicycles out. I have another shower cap that I put over top of my connector that goes into the car. The line is about 20 feet, I believe, so it gives me just enough to get to the car when pulling in straight forward. Now I would show you where the car parks, but it is right now at Bellevue State Park where there's free charging, and I will show you how that works for me in just a little bit. As you can see, it's not the most beautiful setup, but it gets the job done. With this charging through the 120, I get about 5 to 6 miles per hour overnight. So at the end of the day, if I've driven 30 to 50 miles, I can recoup that overnight. So here I am at the Bellevue Park station. There's only one charger here. Generally, my routine is to wake up and get here around 6 a.m. I plug in, do my exercises, walk home, eat breakfast, get a lot of stuff done, then come back up 4 hours later. Generally, free stations like this in Delaware parks in particular are 4-hour limit. And so I get around 120 miles charge from the time spent here. And after I do my thing at home, I walk back up here, jump in my car, and be on my way. This station's a semi-connect. They just replaced this one. At one time, they were all online. You could see if they were free or if they were in use. Unfortunately, this one's been offline for a while, so you can't tell if it's in use or not. So you take the chance of driving into the park, which is not that big of a deal, but minor inconvenience. Maybe it costs you a mile or two charge. And as you can see, I do have the Model 3. It's a standard range. When I got it, it was 253 mile charge, It has since dropped down to around 242, probably because of my driving habits, and I have yet to see if I can reset the battery and some of the recommendations, running it down all the way and then recharging it fully to see if any of that capacity is regained. But I got this almost a year ago on Labor Day, actually the day after Labor Day. I love it. There's absolutely no complaint about it whatsoever. When I got here this morning, there was about 58 miles left on the battery. As you can see, 120 miles later charge, about 73% capacity. 4 hours saved me about the equivalent of about $6 if I were to pay for it at one of the stations that I use, for example, up in Kennett Square or Westchester. Actually, the one in Westchester is free, scratch that. The one in Kennett Square is about 33 cents, or no, sorry, 3.3 cents per charge mile. To put that into perspective, supercharging costs about 10 cents, between 8 cents and 10 cents per charge mile. So it is significantly more to supercharge. So my recommendation through all of this video is to charge as much as you can through a 120 at home. Find yourself a free charger or a level 2 charger somewhere where you go often, and only supercharge once in a while. The supercharging apparently also may cause damage to the battery if that's all you're doing, because of the heat that needs to be generated in order to supercharge. My use of the shower cap, I tried to think of a way to protect the charger and keep the elements off. This is also good for when it snows. The snow falls on the cap and then it's easier to brush off, and it doesn't freeze to the charging, whatever it's called, charge port. And you can see it wraps nicely around the lid, and also how the noodles, the swim noodles, protect the cord from the sun. That was a consideration of mine. So it completely covers it. All I have to do is change the swim noodles when they get old. These are about a year old, so hanging in there even through the winter. Cover it up. The only consideration is when I cover it up, sometimes the lid wants to get pressed down, but it's not a big deal. It'll reset itself. Things I've also noticed is, in order to reduce the drain on the battery, I did purchase a more custom fit sun screen for the windshield that keeps the cabin a little bit cooler. It will drain the battery when it needs to keep itself cool, or in the wintertime when it needs to keep itself warm enough. So that is one consideration. So in conclusion, definitely worth the effort to try and find yourself a level 2 charger that is free in your area, to get that extra little charge here and there, and to make better use of just a simple outlet in your home or outdoor outlet that's a 120. I was considering doing a level 2 charging system, and I opted not to because the cost was a little bit too high with the materials and all the work that was going to go into doing that. So I decided to try this route, and it's been a year. Level 1 has suited me just fine. I can count on my hand the times that I need to supercharge through the month, but definitely the supercharger is worth it when you are traveling. I get about 150 miles charged in 15 minutes, so that's not bad. Just take a break, get a coffee, stretch your legs, go to the bathroom, and that 150 miles to 200 miles will last me until the next charging station, which is about an average of 2 hours away of driving. So a break every 2 hours, not a big deal. It's actually better for your body. And yeah, so if you have any questions, definitely reach me. You can email me at fisherryan@gmail.com, PHISHERYAN@gmail.com. I'm sure Phil will share that information with you, and hope to hear from you if you have any questions. Thanks again. I don't know if I ever mentioned my name. My name is Ryan Fisher, and I'm in North Wilmington, Delaware, enjoying my EV and all the perks that it comes with. Have a great day and hope to hear from you.
What Ryan was trying to express is that he keeps track of where he can charge his vehicle for free and take advantage of that situation. And a lot of people who are charging their vehicles have kind of learned different ways of saving a little money and sometimes saving a little time with their charging options. So at this point, everyone's had a chance to present, and we've tried to rush through the questions so we could get an opportunity for everybody to present. We're sort of in the chat time of the program. We normally wrap up right at 8:30, and so we're in kind of an extended period here where if anybody would like to ask questions or make comments, we'd like you to feel free. If Joe or Chuck could run through some questions that had been saved on chat or entered on chat as we go through. And if there's a blank space and no one's asking a question, each of you feel free to go ahead and unmute yourselves and ask a question or make a comment for any of the speakers. Not all of the speakers, Rick had to leave, but most of the other speakers, I believe, are still on. Do you want to queue up?
So there's a general theme here of questions that came in towards the end that relate to battery type and using lithium iron phosphate instead of cobalt containing batteries. And the crux of the questions are, you know, these are being made in China. Will they be made in the United States? And I think the answer, you know, maybe someone wants to chime in, but with 3 battery plants being built in the United States, I think some of these new technologies are going to be actually done in America. But
and I think that's where the Inflation Reduction Act is sort of trying to help push those along with the way that's structured to get more here. Tom, did you have any comments on that?
I'm using LFP for my battery backup system, just FYI.
Oh, okay.
Also, it's important to note that everybody hits the alarm button when they think cobalt is being used in a electric battery, but the fossil fuel has been using cobalt for years to refine their gasoline.
Yeah, this is often a problem. We examine very closely what we're doing with the new cleaner technology, and we sometimes lose sight of what the old technology was doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was muted earlier, Phil. No, I don't know the answers to what kind of batteries they're planning to produce. Okay. I was looking that information up and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I was just thinking of the incentives were there that maybe for.
Oh no, I didn't see anything on that. It just was where the materials came from.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Which I think is good, because I don't think the government should be picking technology at this point.
No.
North America has 2 giant mineable lithium reserves. One is on the U.S.-Canadian border. The other is in, I believe, North Carolina. And I've actually had stock in both of those companies over the years. But I know the guys up in Quebec are actually mining using electric driven vehicles now. So all their stuff, and it's on a very small footprint. And again, nobody seems to complain at all about the gravel pit. Like just in our area, we probably have 10 gravel pits in our area, right? Digging up gravel to put down on the roads. So people need to keep things in perspective. It's great to be an environmentalist, but it's not great to not understand the massive scale with which the fossil fuel has destroyed and helped destroy the living planet.
I looked at the chats and there's some dialogue between some participants around regenerative braking, but there's not really a question in there, I think.
right.
Just the ability of going up hills and in hilly places using regenerative braking in an effective and efficient manner.
So regen braking has to do with putting on your hydraulic brakes, right?
Hmm.
No, has nothing to do with that hydraulics at all. It has to do with the fact that you've got a Tesla inside your electric car. It's a Tesla motor, is invented by Tesla, Nikola Tesla. And AC motors, as soon as you stop powering them, if there's any momentum at all, and they keep spinning, they instantly start producing electricity. So that's what we are talking about when we're talking about regenerative braking, because it takes a tremendous amount of effort to turn that motor when it's actually generating electricity. And so many electric cars you can actually stop the car on the road just by letting off the accelerator, and all that momentum is converted to electricity, and the battery management system puts it right back into the battery. In point of fact, electric cars generate around 10% of all of their own energy while you're driving them. That's a huge thing to understand. And that's just because you're accelerating, you spent energy on gaining momentum. Now you've got it. And then now you need to stop, let off the accelerator, and the car does the rest.
Excellent point. I'm sure that's all lost on a lot of people.
Joe, do you see another question in here somewhere?
One recently came up, are all electric vehicles inherently all-wheel drive? I've been looking at the Ford Lightning and can't find anything definitive.
Yeah, I don't think they're all-wheel drive, no. I think, I don't, in fact, I think that's probably about the same proportion as the fossil fuel cars. You have some all-wheel electrics and some non.
I think Ford has some information on the website too about the drive scenario they have. I think it's rear wheel drive and all-wheel drive options. I'd have to look. But Lightning's the pickup truck from Ford that's just starting to come out.
And it has an inverter, so you can actually just use the electricity for whatever you need it for.
That's an option.
Yeah.
But yes.
You can always use an inverter as long as you have a 12-volt battery. You can clip on a small or a large inverter. I've done that. Rick, you've done that. Mark's done that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The problem that I've always been, mindful of is that you have a 12-volt battery and it has a certain capacity to discharge. So you really don't want to put a giant honking inverter on your 12-volt battery, for safety reasons. You just don't want to do that. But yes, it will. Like I can run my PA system. I know John's run his refrigerator. There's many home appliances that you can actually run that way. Lights, of course, sure. LEDs.
I've made coffee with mine. Coffee when the power is.
Does it make good coffee, John?
Yeah, that's fine.
Electric coffee.
Charged up. Oh, very good. Anybody have any comments or other thoughts on electric vehicles and the topic?
Marcia?
Yeah, I put 20 solar panels on my roof about 4 or 5 years ago, and my Prius didn't pass inspection because of the rust. I live in Pennsylvania, so I bought a used Tesla from Virginia, and I am not computer savvy, so I'm learning every single day what it has on it and how it works. And yesterday I learned it has a pet setting. I needed milk and I wanted to stop at the grocery store, and it was too warm to let my puppy stay in the car, and I didn't want to drive home to drop her off and then come back and get the milk. So I was trying to turn the air conditioner on high to cool the car down before I went into the store to grab the milk. And I saw a pet setting, and I touched the pet setting, and what it does is it leaves the air conditioner on, and the entire monitor, which is the size of a desktop computer, twice the size of my puppy, says, "My driver will be back soon. The air conditioner's on. Its temperature is 75 degrees Fahrenheit inside." And I went, "Oh my God." So I went in and got my milk, and I came back and the puppy was all curled up under a blanket because it was so cold in there. and it was just like, hallelujah, you know? So every day I learned something new about the car, and I've had it 11 months now.
You needed the sign to protect it from people breaking into.
If you can see the puppy, you can see this screen. It's huge. So anyway, I'm kind of excited about it. I've been apprehensive about it for 11 months, but every day I learn something new, and every day it's like, okay, well, this isn't so bad. Okay, this isn't so bad. So yeah, it's kind of fun now.
Very good.
Pretty soon you'll be using camping mode.
I am planning that. I knew that was there. I just didn't know it had pet mode in it.
What does camping mode do?
It keeps the air conditioner on at night while you're sleeping in the car, and on a low energy use.
Okay.
Yeah, it also shuts all the exterior lights off, so you don't have to have flaps over your running lights or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, it's neat.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it does with the alarm system. I was camping last 4th of July, and I rolled over at about 3 a.m. in the morning, and I set off the Sentry mode alarm, which is bad because it woke everybody else up that was camping. And then on a Tesla, it starts playing the fugue in D minor as loud as it possibly can. Scares the pee out of you. But so I think I should have had it in camping mode to stop it. But
I have yet to learn about that one yet.
yeah, if you're inside the car in the middle of the night sleeping, it's scary.
Wow.
Modern
perhaps we should end the formal meeting and have further discussion if people want to. It's 10 of 9.
Yeah, well, we should probably wrap up. I think it's wonderful the speakers we've had this evening, and I hope everyone gained some insights. And one thing that's real important, this September is a big month to get to know electric vehicles better. Brandon announced his event on the September 2nd, and Rick announced his event on the 24th. Then there's a webinar next week on the 7th on I can never get this right, the Inflation Reduction Act, and its impact on the electric vehicle incentives. So you can sign up for that. We'll put some of the links on the website, all that I can find, and look for those tonight or tomorrow morning. And join us again next month, the last Tuesday of September, and we'll find out about what Atlantic County is doing to clean up our waste processing. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And
could I say just one other thing before we close?
Sure.
Well, it has to do with the electric car show. So I'll be at Brandon's show on the 2nd, but the one on the 24th also, and all the ones that are in the area. If you look them up, right now we just hit 5% of the market, or 5% out of all vehicles. 5% of them are now electric vehicles, and that's a significant number. But we can't let up. We can't rest on our laurels. This is the time more than ever to educate the public about electric vehicles, and that's why we do these shows, is so that there's an opportunity for the public to come out and see the electric cars, but also it's an opportunity for electric car owners to help educate the public about what is going on with electric vehicles. There's a lot of lies and misinformation out there. And, you know, we're trying to take down a multi-trillion-dollar industry after all. And so they're going to do everything they can do to discredit better technology in favor of the status quo. So it's super, super important. If you can make it to these shows with your electric car, tell your story, you know, meet up with the other owners. It's just a wonderful time. And we really need you to help push this idea forward.
Great. Thanks so much, Rick. That's a wonderful conclusion to wrap up on. And thanks everyone for joining us tonight.